The board members' names are in front of you. Code Enforcement Officer Mike Carnazzo is with us, and Town Council Joe Charbonneau. The way we operate is we'll hear the cases, at which time you'll be able to speak. I'll swear you in. Afterwards, we'll open it up to the audience. If anyone has anything to say, come up and I'll swear you in as well, and we'll hear what you have to say. Once we close the case, no one can speak on it afterwards, and we'll have no further input from the public or anybody else. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, application number 1, Freeman. They're looking for an adjournment. So if anybody's here for that case, I'm going to look for a motion to hold it over. I'm giving them 1 more month. Beyond that, they either have to rescind their application and do away with the violation. And you'll serve them, Mike, I guess, on the carport. So they've been served.
Yeah, they're actually in court.
All right, so they have to, so we're going to give them one more month. I'll look for a motion for 1 more month adjournment.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so if anybody's here for number 1, Freeman, it's going to get held over. Okay? Second application tonight is for, I forgot my glasses, New York SMSA Limited Partnership, DBA, Verizon Wireless.
Good evening, Chairman,
Good evening.
members of the board. My name is Ed Tiber, and
All right, do me a favor, speak into the microphone, and I'm going to swear you in. You're not an attorney, are you? Oh, you are, okay. No need then.
didn't say that.
Just turn the mic up so we pick it up for the TV audience. And for, we have a secretary that does the minutes, so they need to hear to do the minutes clearly.
Members of the board, Chairman, my name is Ed Tiber. I'm here from the law firm of Snyder & Snyder in support of New York SMSA Limited Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless's request for a parking variance. So Verizon Wireless is seeking to locate 2 antennas on the roof of the existing building at 361 Route 6 in Mahopac. And in connection with that approval, Verizon Wireless was referred before this board to obtain a parking variance. The existing property has 16 parking spaces. Under your zoning code, section 156-37, all public utility installations, whether they're manned or unmanned, require 2 off-street parking spaces. Verizon's proposed facility is unmanned. We'll only have a truck come out about once a month for maintenance. Nonetheless, the zoning code requires it to have 2 parking spaces. Respectfully submit that the existing parking spaces at the property or the commercial building will suffice for Verizon Wireless's infrequent visits. And if you have no further, I'd like to answer any questions you have right now. And otherwise, just respectfully request that Verizon Wireless be granted parking variance for 2 spaces for the public utility installation.
We had the situation come up, was it the same building? Or no?
Different building, also in Mahopac, exact same situation.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I think at that time, we didn't have a problem with it. And unless anybody has any questions, go ahead.
One quick question. I didn't see a sign posted in front of the building.
I have an affidavit and picture of a sign posted in front of the building
Okay.
that I submitted to Rose. And I have it in my briefcase, but I'm happy to show you after the
As
meeting.
long as it was there. That's fine.
Yeah, I noticed also driving in that it wasn't there. I don't know.
Is it something you could submit just for the record, just to cover?
Should be here, too.
It happens that
Is it in
I
there?
have a copy of it.
Yeah, I saw it because I drove by it every day. I saw it before we got the pack.
Wasn't there today.
Right. Oh, he's fine.
Yeah, so here it is with the cover letter that I submitted it to Rose.
Right there.
And there it is.
Yeah, it wasn't there today.
Yeah, it wasn't there today when I drove in.
Okay, that's fine. That's my
I
only
know
question.
a lot of landscapers coming out doing grass and stuff. Maybe they inadvertently pulled it out recently.
For the file.
Well, it was in the file, so if you want to hold on to it. Thanks, Ed. Anybody else have anything on board? I'll open it up to the public for any questions or concerns on this application. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Motion to close public hearing?
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Silvio.
Have a good night.
You too.
I didn't know if you were gonna go there or not.
You beat me to it, thank you.
What was it?
Application number 3 is Sacchinoce?
Sketchy,
Did I get that right? All right. I'm half Italian, so I think I got that all right.
You got it half right.
And you are?
My name is Paul Scacinosi.
Raise your right hand, please. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, Paul, tell us what you're looking to do here.
I'm looking for a variance on 2 existing sheds on my property. And I've been told they're too close to the line, so I'd like to keep them. They're completely filled with a lot of junk, tools, garden equipment.
That's not junk.
You know, I don't use them anymore.
Give
so-
yourself a chance, come on. How long have they been there for?
One shed's been there, I've been living in the house for 18 years. I was raised there, my parents owned it. I've owned it now for 18 years. And one of them has been there since before I bought the house, and the other one's been there about 5 or 6 years now.
All right, you didn't know you needed a building permit for them?
I did not know I
variance.
needed a permit for it. It's just on top of the ground. At the time, I was just under the impression, as long as there's no foundation or anything like that, I didn't need a permit for it.
All right, there's no,
It's small, it's a smaller one. It's 10 by 14, I think.
yeah, that's the worst one. I mean, as far as,
Right, that's a 5-foot variance.
yeah,
It's right up against my next door neighbor's shed.
I noticed that when I was out there
Color,
today.
size, everything. That's it, really.
Your property looks like it's pretty deep and there's nothing behind you but woods. I know this time of year the leaves aren't in yet, but it looked pretty well screened. The neighbor to the left, I'll keep my comments to myself, but, I mean, it looked like they were well kept and maintained and in decent shape.
Yeah, I try to keep the property clean.
There's no other property you can purchase to bring them into conformance?
Excuse me?
There's no other property you can buy to bring these into conformance, correct?
No.
Okay. I mean, one of them is a 50% variance, the other one is just under, so,
Because of the size of the shed, the setback went from 20 to 10. The smaller
Oh,
shed, it's
'cause
only a
it's-
10 foot, just so you know why there's a difference in the numbers.
that makes sense.
Smaller sheds are allowed to be 10 feet from the property line.
Got it.
Okay. So, board members have any questions? Mike? No questions. Bill?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Just why is this coming up now? What?
Dennis, I
Oh,
think.
Dennis picked it up? Okay,
That's
that's fine.
He's doing his job.
And I saw both of them, and I had a feeling that's what it was. That's fine.
No questions.
All right, it makes sense. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this application? You have no issues with your neighbors on either side? They're, no concerns, okay. Look for motion.
Motion to close.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Again, you guys can stick around to hear us adjudicate, to get your results, otherwise you can check with Rose. Well, she's not on Friday, so you can check with Rose on Monday after 10, I think she comes in. Mike? She comes in later,
Yeah.
right? 10.
10.
Okay, number 4, Atanasio. Just bear with us, Dominic's doing some technical upgrades here. You want to test it first, Dominic? In the meantime, I'll swear you in. When you are, I'm sorry.
My name's Gary Atanasio.
Okay. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Hold on one second. He's good, Dominic? You just bring it closer to your mouth.
Yeah, that's-
Test one.
I do.
Okay. Gary, tell us what you're seeking relief on here.
Seeking a variance for a pool deck to a pool that's a little too close to the line.
And because they're attached, that's becomes part of the same
Yes.
setback criteria. Again, I was out there today as well. you have a whole wooded section between you and the next street that goes down, right?
Yes, I
So you're
do.
pretty well screened. Not extravagant numbers that we're looking here. You're looking for a 1.5-foot variance on the upper deck, 3.5 foot for the lower deck, and 5 feet for the pool out of 20 provided. So, I mean, it's well-maintained, everything's in good shape. There's no other property you can buy to bring it into conformance,
No.
okay? Silvio?
Nothing.
Rose?
And Dennis picked up on this one as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
They're right down the street from each other, so he must be taking a block at a
I've been
time.
over there every day.
No questions,
No.
thank you.
No question.
You guys are good. Questions. All right, any input from the public on this application? I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded by? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, number 6 is Gateway Summit Senior Housing. We're going to hear these together. So it's, application 5 and 6 tonight is, number 5 is Hudson Valley Realty Corp., Gateway Summit Senior Housing. And number 6 is Par 4 Realty Company LLC, Fairway Senior Housing. Now, they're both the same property, but 2 different developers. Wait till he's ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jeff Quintelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Right hand? Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay. I just asked, these are the same property, but 2 different developers, or?
Two separate properties, 2 separate landowners, 1 common developer.
Okay. All right, just to shed some light on it. Explain the situation to us.
Yes, good evening. We submitted a letter which detailed our proposal or request from the board, but in summary, we're requesting relief from 2 provisions of your zoning code. Number 1, we're requesting a variance from a 2-story building to a 3-story building while still maintaining the code required height of the building. And secondly, we're requesting a variance from the width of our indoor parking spaces within our buildings. Your code requires a 10-foot width, and we're proposing a 9-foot width. As I indicated, the applicant had submitted a detailed letter explaining the situation, and I'd like to just summarize that for the board and for the public. The 2 variances being sought are on the Gateway and Fairway senior housing projects, which are located off of Route 6 in the vicinity of the Centennial Golf Club. The G&F subdivision was approved back in 2007, created 7 lots. The 2 lots that we're talking about this evening, lots 6 and 7, were proposed for senior housing developments, each of 150 units. The current proposal remains to be 150 units on each of the projects, so the unit count does not change. The requested variance really is a byproduct of a change in the real estate market. The program that was developed in 2007 and deemed marketable at that point was unfortunately severely affected by what happened with the economy, in particular the real estate market. The applicant has aggressively attempted to market the property since the approvals were granted, and has been advised by many different consultants that the configuration had to change. As I said, the number of units that hasn't changed, the type of units really hasn't changed, but the multifamily building within the development is the one that's the subject of the request for variance. There are 3 building types proposed in the development. There's a cottage-style home, a townhome, and then a multifamily building. The multifamily building, as originally approved, was 2 stories with parking beneath it, and the current proposal is to allow it to go to 3 stories with parking beneath it. One of the key drivers with the change is actually to reduce the footprint of that multifamily building by 30%. What we're able to achieve in doing that is we're able to get 13 units in a smaller footprint in 3 stories, where before we had 16 units in 2 stories in a bigger footprint. This allows us to really create a better balance of the types of units and create a more marketable condition. In addition, it creates units within the multifamily building, which are now primarily corner units. We have five units on a floor, so we have 4 corner units and 1 center unit. Again, these are much more marketable units. We also have eliminated the long hallways, which aren't preferable from a marketing standpoint. What I'd like to do is just put up, I'm going to turn around this and let you see that, generally speaking, and it's a little difficult to see, but the layout of the development is very much the same. As a matter of fact, it's almost.
Jeff, just do me a favor, because for the taking minutes, you got to speak into the microphone as best you can. I think you might be able to pick that up. Yeah, take it with you.
As I was saying, when you look at the approved plan as compared to the proposed plan, it's almost identical in terms of how it
You're
lays out.
minimizing the footprint, which is a green effort as well.
Correct. There actually are a number of green items integrated into this, and you're correct in that, our footprint being reduced, it could be considered a green initiative, and as well as the parking space reduction in width could be considered a green initiative.
You guys are taking into consideration water recharge, and I know that's more of a planning board thing, but.
Yes. I'll
bigger
point out
gutters and
that,
whatnot.
before we came here this evening, we did attend a planning board meeting and introduced the concept to them and went through what we considered to be a very critical step and went through what was called the environmental review threshold sheets. This particular development was quite unique in that it was the subject of a generic environmental impact statement. And a generic environmental impact statement looks at broad impacts associated with usually larger, more complicated types of development. And in doing so, establishes thresholds that future components of a project must adhere to. And what we did with the planning board is we showed them that, in fact, our amended plan did in fact stay within the threshold established within those seeker thresholds. And the board found that we did do that and acknowledged it by way of execution of the seeker threshold sheets. And that's a very important step because what it does is it shows that, we have paid attention to the environmental impacts, we have paid attention to the environmental concerns that were previously expressed, and what we've done is we've really just morphed a project as a version of the same thing. It's a 300 units of senior housing. It's got a similar type of unit throughout. And what we've done is we've really taken it and made it more marketable in 2016 in an effort to be able to develop it.
Okay. So, I mean, you're not gonna, you're gonna stay within the height restriction, right?
Right, and
You're gonna
that-
just show, do you have any cross-sections or anything? to
Yes,
show the
we do.
board?
Yeah, how did you achieve going from 2 to 3?
So, I mean, yeah, you're showing that it's tapered off in the back. Does that, Mike, usually you take the median middle line, right, of
At
a
the front.
tapered lot?
At the front of the building.
Okay.
Right, the special use permit associated with senior housing has a maximum height limit of 40 feet. We were within that limit with the previous proposal, and we've been able to hold it in this proposal. The height as defined in your code is measured from the average grade at the front of the building to the mean height of a hip roof or gabled roof, which is the
Right.
type of roof we have. We have done the calculations to be sure we're within that height. That's why we're not requesting a variance for height. And our contention is that, this extra story, although it gives us great opportunity from a marketing standpoint, really doesn't change the height of the building. And you can see, some of the roof lines are brought down over the windows in an attempt to get that third story to stay within that height.
I just want to point out to some of the newer board members, we approved Pulte Homes on this. I don't know if you guys were still on the board or at that
I
point.
wasn't involved.
to a similar situation. And
And the other one behind ShopRite.
I forgot the name of that one. That's,
Hillcrest? I don't think they got a third
Oh, that's right, they
story.
didn't have a third story, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I remember
That was a question
the
that
homes
one of the
coming
planning board.
Right.
so it's not, I mean, each case is judged on its own merits, and I think you're similar reasoning here because of market changes and whatnot. So just want to point that out to some of the newer members that didn't experience that in the past. What, your opinion, the planning board looked upon this favorably? So
Yeah,
just-
we talked a little bit about where we were deviating a bit from the code and pointed out that, the mass of this building is still within the height limit, but it's 30% smaller in footprint. So actually, what this is allowing us to do, believe it or not, is take what were big multifamily buildings, keep them the same height and make them smaller multifamily buildings. And I think the board recognized that, this did achieve, a bunch of our goals in terms of creating a better mix of units in a more marketable project while maintaining all of the limitations that were placed on us in terms of areas of disturbance, avoidance of steep slopes, avoidance of wetlands in critical areas. We're still committed to the same infrastructure. You saw the road network and sewer and water improvements will all be the same and have been committed to. The same traffic improvements are committed to.
Can you put up the site plan again for us?
Sure.
One question is, are you encumbering any views of any existing homes or neighbors? I mean, basically, you're adjacent to the golf course and the fairways, obviously. So you're not impeding any views on that side.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Kelch, in his letter back to the board, pointed out that our closest multifamily building to a residential home is about 900 feet. And what I want to point out, which is also important, this is the approved plan with the two-story buildings. We had 10 multifamily buildings, and we had them on both the high side of the road or uphill side of the road and the down side of the road. What we did in the proposed condition was we moved them to the down side of the road. And what that does is that gives us a 3-story front and a 4-story back, which nobody sees, and actually puts those in locations that'll be more sensitive to the views and sensitive to the community within itself as you drive down the road.
Okay.
So you'll see we have 2 multifamily buildings here and the other 7 down on the downhill side here. So we've actually moved them in number away from the upper residential properties, which, as I said, are over 900 feet away.
Makes sense. But more susceptible to wayward golf balls, right?
Well, actually, there was, I think we may be less susceptible than these were, right here, and equally susceptible maybe as some of those. So,
Okay. I think in your memorandum, you hit
Excuse me,
upon
John,
the...
they said they can't see what he's talking about on their side.
Possible to move that so we can see it?
Sure, Jeff, if you don't mind, I mean, we've seen it, and we have a copy of it, so. I think you touched upon the criteria for, the variance criteria in your memorandum, so I'm not gonna go through that unless board members have any questions. So I'll open it up to the board members. Mike, anything? No.
No questions, thank you.
Of course I have questions. One question is, I know this doesn't fall under our purview, but I want it on record. One of the huge concerns over Pulte was the fact that they cleared all the land and all of the beautiful trees were gone. I think that's a huge concern. I don't know what your plans are, but I do want it on some kind of record that, that, I know that's part of the planning board, but I would like to see, the vegetation kept at some point. Can you give me an idea of what you are doing?
Sure. That issue was in fact reviewed during the environmental review process in quite amount of detail. We're basically talking about almost 150 acres, which, surrounds the gateway, comes all the way down, ultimately back to Route 6, down to a large pond, lake, or wetland system, and extends along the golf course all the way back to the golf course. So we're talking about almost 150 acres. The 150 units of Gateway sit right here. And what you see in this area will be disturbed, will be regraded, the trees will be removed. The sensitive area, which encumbers a very large area, which was identified for preservation, really started here on 6, came along the stream corridor, all the way with, I think, over 400 feet from the wetland itself, and maintained all the vegetation along this substantial portion of the property. There are some walking trails, and there's some very minor lakefront improvements proposed, but all of the trees through here will remain, and these will be removed through here. And again, limits were established within the environmental review process.
So does the golf club have a certain amount of vegetation along those lines?
There's a stone wall along here, which does have some significant trees along it, as normally will happen along the walls. So there will be some vegetation maintained along that line.
Okay, and on the upper section there won't be any?
I believe there's also a wall here, and there'll be a tree line with some significant trees maintained on both sides of that property line.
Okay, and the white section above the sign where it says Gateway Summit, that whole section what's there?
This is actually county property. The old landfill sits down low, right in here, and then this is wooded slope that comes back up to the top of the hill. This is the wooded portion here, and this is the landfill portion down low here.
Okay, and along the top there?
Here?
Yep.
This is where the town water tank sits. This is actually town property. And then the Kelly Ridge development sits up on the other side of the golf course, up in here.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's what I need to know.
Sylvia?
Did you talk to Carmel FD? They're okay with the 3rd floor?
Our proposal automatically is referred to the Carmel Fire Department by way of the planning board referral. We have not spoken to them directly on this issue. We have reviewed the fire codes and the building codes, and, you know, our project actually goes beyond the fire code and building code, because these buildings are all required to be sprinklered,
Fully sprinkled.
and they will be fully sprinkled.
That's all I have.
The houses have sprinklers in them also, the manor homes, I guess you call it, but that's a residential type sprinkler. This is a full
Yeah, full out.
sprinkler system.
Commercial
yes.
system.
Full out. Right.
Flows and tampers, and do you have the need for any pumps? Pressure.
What happens by way of this project is there's sewer and water infrastructure improvements that have been committed to as part of the project. So the sewer system will be a collection system of piping for sewer with a pump station, and then the water system actually proposes an improvement that will create a high-pressure zone that will service the upper portions of this property, and also make improvements on the Kelly Ridge, the highest portions of the Kelly Ridge property. There's a substantial off-site improvement to not only benefit this project, but benefit those higher users, which right now don't have adequate pressure. And that's all been worked out.
That's the water district?
With the town as part of an infrastructure improvement that'll be funded by the developer.
All right, we're getting into planning.
Yeah, I know, we
board
just got.
Yeah.
territory,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
we'll leave it at that.
I'll back all things.
At this point, I'll open it up to the public. It looks like we have some folks who wish to be heard. I just want to remind everybody, if you're touching on a similar point that someone brought up, let's not waste everybody's time. Let's, you know, everyone's welcome to be heard, but let's not be redundant.
I'll do my very best.
Okay, you are?
You're first.
John Butler,
You can't be redundant.
47 Kelly Ridge Road.
Raise your hand, please. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
I'm one of those low-pressure users on the top of Kelly
So
Ridge.
you
But it's
gained,
been 34 years, so I'm used to it. I looked at the file. I looked at the letter. I'm opposed to the variance, and I'd like to give the reasons why.
sure.
To give some context, as you did to some of the newer board members, and I think context for the public in general, It should be noted, I think, that these two projects were part of, or are part of, a much larger project called the Gateway Summit. This was these two residential properties, and this is my interpretation, were sort of ancillary to the primary focus of this overall project, and that was anchored by the construction of a hotel on the Route 6 exposure, along with a series of other commercial properties on that Route 6 exposure. This site, or a portion of it, 19 acres to be specific, was in fact the subject of a sale of that land by the town of Carmel back in 2001. It was the subject of a public referendum, a lot of debate. It ultimately was agreed, and ultimately the land was sold, again, with the primary purpose, the primary understanding that that hotel would be built. Again, these were tangential to that focus. And again, I think since it's so long ago, 15 years ago, there's a lot of people that weren't even around at that time. I personally was still in high school, but, you know, but I remember all of that stuff.
Well, sadly, the hotel hasn't really gained much traction, although I think there's some new interest, or no?
Well, the hotel site itself, just, you know, because I've done this, is actually being sold off, or it is for sale by the original Doral organization who were going to build a hotel. They've abandoned the project, it's for sale, okay? So now that overall concept is now limited to these residential projects. That's all we're talking about now. As I said, I did go through the letter. I'm not an attorney, I'm not an engineer. I'm just someone that lives here. But I tried to get an understanding of what's called the balancing test, sort of the criteria as to whether or not a variance should be granted. And I reviewed it, and again, I'm just, you know, I just live here, so bear with me if I'm not that sophisticated about it. It's my understanding, again, in general terms, that the basic underlying reason for requesting the variance is financial, marketability. Without this variance, at least in the presentation I've read, these sites are no longer marketable. And again, I think it's important to note at this point for the public that the applicant here is a turnkey developer. Once these sites are sold, he's gone. He doesn't build. These are sold to builders, someone completely different. The Pulte project was exactly that way. Same turnkey developer sold to Pulte. Pulte then came in and wiped out all the trees. Pulte came in and built Monopoly Hill. So I think, again, it's important for the public to understand that. So getting to the meat of the matter, it's a financial situation. That's the purpose of this variance. And the balancing criteria, is that the right term? Or the balancing test basically consists of 5 areas. And the first one is, will the variance have a change in will a change in community character occur by granting the variance? And would it be detrimental to the community as a whole? In my opinion, the answer to that is yes. In the letter, they actually referred to the variance that was given in the Pulte project to the multi-unit buildings on that site. And I say this with all due respect. That variance and the allowance to make a 3-story multi-unit buildings in the Pulte development made something that was so bad, almost impossibly worse. So our concern as a community, and I speak, you know, we have several neighbors here, but I honestly believe that I speak for the entire town and people beyond the town, because no one that I've ever met, ever, has come over that hill heading to the hamlet of Carmel and looked up at the Pulte, the retreat, and I bear no ill will to the people that live there. That's their residents, their neighbors. But no one comes over that hill for the past 7 or 8 years and looks up and says, how could this ever have been allowed to happen? And my real fear here is, and the fear of, I think, everyone in the town, is this is going to replicate that in its own way. I don't know what this is going to look like from Route 6 when you're making that right turn off at 312. They're gonna clear cut that, they have to build these things. Are we now gonna be looking up at yet another project sitting up on the ridgeline and just make the gateway to the hamlet even worse than it is now? So the answer, I think, to number one is, yes, it will be detrimental. 3 stories, 2 stories, it's going to be detrimental to the community in general. One of the other points is that the position is the variance is not substantial due to not exceeding the height restriction. So I get that. But I think anyone who looks at a 2-story multi-unit residential structure and then looks at a 3-story residential structure, it doesn't sound like much, it doesn't look like much, but when you're in real time and looking at it, in my way of thinking, that 3rd story turns a suburban multi-unit structure to an urban structure. It just does to the eye and to
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
perception.
say, keep in mind, it's not a single family, it's a multifamily.
I know
unit.
exactly what it is. It's a
Proportionate.
multifamily building that currently is approved for 2 stories that they want to put a 3rd story on. That becomes, again, in my way of thinking, that comes from a garden-style presentation to an apartment building. That's exactly what you see with Pulte, in my opinion. The next item is the project is not economically feasible with the multifamily buildings in their current configuration. I love this one. I gotta tell you, this one I get a kick out of. I guess I've been on Earth too long. I'm just so cynical in my way of thinking. The letter says there was this great marketing analysis done by CBRE. In my way, again, this is just me. What do I know? I just have this feeling there might be a buyer out there that's saying, yeah, I'll buy this if you get this variance, you know, and it's not anything to do with a broad scope marketability and financial restrictions. It has to do with a deal. Again, that's just my opinion. I've been around too long. And therefore, I think this request for the variance is disingenuous. It's not marketability, it's being able to close a deal on a buyer. There's been a lot of activity up there. We live there. We live right here. Okay, we see, well, I should say right here.
Kelly Ridge.
Yeah, on Kelly Ridge. And we see a lot of activity. People going through the gate at the end of Kelly Ridge Road, going onto the site, lots of activity. So, you know, I'm sorry, again, I'm a bit cynical. And then the final thing, I had to mention that. That marketability and making changes in order to make things more feasible, I don't know where the concept of business risk goes here. I mean, all of a sudden, you know, you're a real estate developer, you're an investor, it's inherent risk. So I feel like that risk is being transferred to the community and being asked to make changes to a very contentious project that was approved 7 years ago. And there's an underlying concern with the people that live up in the Everett Road, Kelly Ridge, St. Michael's area. If these kind of variances are being granted or could be granted because of marketability, frankly, what's the next one? What's the next request going to be? Is the next request oh, you know what? The little emergency access squiggle that's just going to be for emergency access and egress that leads right to Kelly Ridge Road. The next variance is, hey, this project is no longer economically feasible unless we have access to Kelly Ridge Road for the traffic from these projects. And people will say, oh, no, that's never going to happen, never going to happen. But I consider this request to be a microcosm, and so do the folks that my neighbors. We consider this to be a microcosm of more requests to come. And that's the big one. And that's what we've been talking about for 14 years. So, bottom line, and I'll finish, I think the overall project, for all the reasons that I've said, i.e. the complete absence of any commercial and hotel development, which was the intent of the people of the town to sell the 19 acres in the first place, leaves me to believe, again, my opinion, the overall project has little credibility And I don't think a variance should be granted just because someone says, I can't make as much money as I want to without it. Respect the approval process that occurred 7, 8 years ago. Otherwise, what's the purpose of having the approval process in the first place? I honestly believe, again, just my opinion, this is an end run around the approval process. I really believe that. Get the approval for this, and then later we'll go and try to get a variance. In a project like this, again, with all the people involved and all the time that was spent, I just feel that there's something else to it. Thanks.
I just have one quick question. As it is right now, he could build that other proposal.
What's that?
There's another
The
proposal
existing,
that was the
the existing approval.
Right,
the
correct.
existing
That's
approval.
correct.
You're
Yep.
okay with that?
No, but it's done, so there's nothing, it's fait accompli. You know, at this particular point, what we're talking about now is what was approved. No one likes it, but we're forced to live with it. Now we're taking an approved project that's being changed some more. And I think, again, for all the reasons that we talked about, 3-story multi-unit buildings, frankly, don't belong in the town of Carmel.
When I look at this proposal versus the other proposal, I feel like there's more green space
Yeah,
with
what
this
you see,
proposal.
I understand, and I totally understand what you're saying. But unfortunately, and I think, again, to be redundant, we learned a big lesson with the Pulte project. What appears on paper and drawings in green, we live there, okay? And the way this presents itself looks one way, but you have to understand something. This area here, this nice green area, this is all gonna be clear cut to build the buildings. This is a slope that goes like that, okay? So what you have here, if you can imagine, here's the building, then you go like this. So we're gonna clear cut up here for these buildings. And here's the, sort of Route 312 intersection, with 6. So what I'm looking at, because I don't see any renderings or drawings of this part, I'm just imagining that we're gonna be looking up here, and there it is, sitting right up there, just like the retreat. That's what I have in my mind.
Have you brought your concerns to planning? Because this is more, your argument.
I was at the planning board in 2005, 2006,
okay.
2007,
They didn't-
2001,
We didn't have public hearing at planning yet.
1943.
Okay,
There was no public hearing there yet,
okay, that's what I just.
so that's why they're,
Because where he's
here.
going is more planning than zoning. That's-
I understand
both.
that he's
Well, but, right.
trying to
But
allay
yeah,
his
again, I'm not.
concerns.
I'm
No, and I
just,
appreciate it, Mr. Butler, trust me.
I'm just a schmuck that lives in
No,
Kelly Ridge
stop
Road.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, anybody else wish to be heard on this application?
Could we just, some of the neighbors here, maybe just, if you raise your hands, just so you know that.
No, same.
We,
I don't know if you
we-
wanna
we got
somehow
you.
get this on the
we,
record.
we picked up on it. No, we appreciate your concerns,
You
and
look
that's
like there
what we're
was
here
support
to
from the
absorb, and, there's, like I said, there's criteria that need to be met on a zoning board level. A lot of your concerns would, like Silvio said, be addressed at the planning board. So we have to adjudicate on the facts in front of us and what they're looking to do. On a personal level, we're required to take 4 hours of training every year. So I attended a seminar 2 weeks ago, and the basis of that seminar was the changing parameters of residential housing for gearing towards older retirees and millennials, and the change of where these people are buying and moving into, and their buildings and how they're operating and how they're being designed are treated differently now. It's a whole different market.
What does that training have to do with zoning? That sounds like more on the,
No, it has nothing to do with, just pointing out the fact that I went to the seminar, and that was the topic of discussion. That was part of the training. But the changes are real for how people design their projects and adapting to the clientele. And the other fact is we're coming out of a recession, and things are coming full circle, and, needs are different and adapt to different criteria or changes to designs. So I just wanted to point that out, just based on a seminar I went to. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this application? Okay.
The people in the audience, how many are Kelly Ridge Road?
I'm Everett.
You're one Everett? Is there anyone else on Everett? There's 3 on Everett, and how many are on
St.
St.
Michael.
Michael's?
St. Michael's is really on the other side of the hill. They're not really,
Yeah, we only had, the other part, just so you know.
They didn't get
we only had
notice.
3 business days between, this came in the mail Saturday. So we had very little, no, we had 3 days or less to even try to advise people.
they probably wouldn't have been noticed because of the 500-foot notice.
Right, well,
Anyway,
that's why
yeah.
we were noticing people, so, and I think this room would be stuffed right now if we had had.
I got no notice, except a neighbor called me about an hour and a half ago. So that was.
He's probably out of the zone. Could be outside.
You could be outside of the 500-foot. I'm not sure where you live. I'm just,
I'm also on Kelly Ridge, but.
Yeah, but you may be-
I walked that.
Okay.
See, and Ernie makes a point, because on Kelly Ridge, according to the plan, I mean.
Mrs.
the-
Butler, come back up to the microphone, that way they can hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think it is an important, sort of administrative point, that to the best of my knowledge, and again, I'm gonna point to the map. So this is Kelly Ridge Road here, okay?
there's a golf
And the
course.
Fairways project is being built out all the way along the golf course, basically for 3/4 of the length of Kelly Ridge Road. So the back boundaries, the stone wall, as Mike knows, that runs parallel all the way down Kelly Ridge Road, I guarantee you is within 500 feet of where this construction is going to be. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I mean, it's almost 2 football fields. You're talking about 2 narrow fairways across. These folks at the end, again, I'm up here, these folks down here are gonna be looking right at this project. So why they weren't receiving notices for this hearing, because they were I mean, does it make sense to you?
It does, but I'm not sure where the 500 feet is. I could check it, but I don't know here. I can't.
Yeah, it's,
I could check it on my
It's-
computer when I get back.
it's right there. But anyway, if I had gotten a notice, I think the people down our lower portion of Kelly Ridge Road are actually closer to the project than I am, so it's confusing.
Where are you, roughly? You.
It's easy. So this is Kelly Ridge Road, right there. This is that emergency egress access path.
Right,
This literally is Kelly Ridge Road. It goes down to Fair Street.
okay.
So our properties are bordering on the golf course right here. Here's that stone wall I was talking about. So my house is here, stone wall goes all the way down to Kelly Ridge Road. This here, I mean, it seems this whole section of Kelly Ridge Road, it's gonna be parallel to the project. I don't think anyone got any notices. I think.
We don't know that.
I
What's-
think
Wait a minute, wait. That golf course is pretty wide there.
It's, here I am, okay? Here's the project. I'm within 500 feet.
Correct.
Kelly Ridge.
Whoa.
parallels.
But the road, that spur road that comes up and around, is the project.
This one.
The road that goes up, the future access road, that's why, because you're within 500 feet of that. That's a piece of the property.
Oh, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The golf course is pretty, and I'm not gonna give a number, but it's pretty wide there. I'm looking
Okay.
at a picture on,
Well, if that's correct, and I
I'm looking at
have
this,
no.
just so you know what
I-
I'm,
Taking
Google Earth.
pictures of me in my backyard.
Google Earth.
If that's correct, I mean,
It's pretty
I
wide.
never considered this is an easement, so I didn't think it was.
That's a piece of that property with an easement on it.
I thought it was the golf course with an easement.
That's a piece of this property, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. I mean,
Anywho, the fact of the matter is, with 3 days' notice or less, we really just, we were just sticking little pieces of paper in people's doors just to get these folks here tonight. So, I don't know. I think,
Well, the cutoff is usually the 15th of the month, but this is our 4th Thursday, and we're typically, or our 5th Thursday, I'm sorry, right? So typically,
Yeah,
it's
maybe the 5th.
sooner, but I think the cutoff is the 15th of when she's got to get notification out.
What's the elevation difference between
Kelly
this-
Road's the highest, the golf course comes down off of that, then this kind of plateaus, and I'm not saying flat, kind of plateaus, and then it drops off to the pond.
right.
So Kelly Ridge is higher?
Yes.
Is the
Correct.
highest point?
Yeah.
No, St. Michael's is the high, it's
Right.
St. Michael's and then up and over, and then it drops down. That's like the ridge, right? Yeah.
Kelly Ridge is the highest, then Everett, then St. Michael's.
Okay, all right, then I have it backwards.
All right.
Yes,
So Kelly Ridge is the highest, and then this project sits below it,
yes,
correct?
yes. The
Yeah.
golf course is below it slightly, and then this is below that.
So,
And again, the impacts, just so to be clear, you know, I'm not limiting my comments in terms of impacts to the people up in Kelly Ridge or Everett. I'm talking more holistically in terms of the impacts this is gonna have, you know, generally, as Pulte has. you know.
Coming into the town.
Yeah, coming into the gateway.
but Kelly Ridge is above. It's
Yes.
not like it's gonna be
No.
up here in your
No,
face.
no, 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 no.
You'd have to look down into it.
Correct. It's really, it's a slope, it's not,
You can't yell
guys
back
gotta
there.
come up and
You gotta come up if you wanna talk.
Come up and get
You
sworn.
can't yell from the back. No, it's okay, the camera can't pick you up.
If you're gonna speak, I need to swear you in, ma'am. Raise your,
Beth Kane.
state your name, I'm sorry.
Beth Kane.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
Yes.
help you God.
Yes. I live right next to John. I'm at the last house, and I'm right
Were you
next to the
here last
easement.
week, last month?
Yes, I was.
Someone just came for a variance last month. That was
Mine,
you.
yes, that's my house.
Okay, so I know where you are.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Right, remember last, the
Yeah.
end right at the
Yeah,
golf
yeah.
course, yes.
Right.
And it's pretty much level. I mean, it does slope a
It's
little
down,
bit,
yeah.
but it's not a hill by any means. So I will be looking out my window during the fall, and I will see these houses. And you talk about the little rock wall that he said, the division and a tree line you would ask him about? Maybe a tree, and a rock wall that goes up to here, and that's it. Division between the golf course and these homes, not a tree line. So, I mean, there isn't, I live there. Yes, there's a little tree line that you're talking about in between my house and that's
Golf
only,
course.
yeah, what?
Between your house and the golf course.
No. My house butts up the golf course.
Correct, and there's trees in between.
no, it's a stone wall and a couple of trees.
In between my house? You want me to show you?
I mean, it's,
That's the road to you right there.
Oh, no, this is an old picture. I have no trees in the back of my house. Oh, this is an aerial view. I have a tree. That's a
I don't
tree
think it's
that's
gonna help
full
the
of
situation.
vision, but there's
Huh?
one
I
tree
don't think it's
between my
gonna help.
house and the golf course. Sorry, no.
But that would be
So
fine.
are you suggesting that from your house, you're almost level with the
Pretty much.
potential?
that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't wanna be looking at Pulte, sorry. I mean, it must be very nice to live there, and the site that he presented, I looked up online, it looks fabulous with the little, but you know how, when
You
developers
guys have seen
develop-
architecturally, right? Have you seen renderings?
Oh, I didn't see that, I just saw the
All right,
site design.
this is not a Pulte.
No, it's
design, in
not,
my
but you
opinion.
know how
It's very-
designs change in the process because of different, I don't know, I just don't want to look at Pulte.
But it's all been mandated by the planning board. So they have criteria that they have to follow. And if they're not doing it right, Mike's gonna stop them. So,
All right, I wasn't involved in the Pulte project, so I can't say that they said something like this was gonna happen and then what happened. I can't say that, but I just don't wanna look at a 3-story house. I'd rather look at trees, because that's why I bought the property 15 years ago, because of the existing look of the way it is.
But
And it's gonna
part-
change.
I'm sorry, part of the problem is that they could build the two-story, and it could still be 30 feet.
40 feet.
40,
40
right.
feet. It still could
But
be.
it's gonna look different than a
I mean-
3-story versus 2-story. Like any,
But
I don't know.
It could be the same height, though, and be 2 stories instead of 3. I mean,
right.
if they
You could
wanted to
build
do
a bigger
cathedral ceilings
a
and,
bigger roof ridge and
yeah,
still
you could still be,
take up that same space.
you could be looking at the same situation, whether it's
I got it.
2-story or 3-story.
I
just
think
can't
I'd be
imagine. I
more
don't know.
concerned for the amount of rainwater that comes through the land and percolates. If you have a building this big compared to a building this big, footprint-wise,
Yeah.
that water's gonna recharge better and dispersal will be managed much better water-wise. So I think I'd be more concerned about water quality.
We have here the little.
Yeah, that's at a planning board, but I have no water, none,
Okay.
but that's that.
At this point, Jeff, do you want to respond to anything? I'll give you that opportunity, and
Mike, just one question before he goes. That access road cuts through the golf course. That's,
That is correct, but it's not gonna be a road on the plan,
This
Right.
is supposed to be an emergency.
emergency only,
only, right.
on the plan. And again, I'm not trying to
But that's
Speak
right through
against-
the course.
Our biggest fear.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. 'Cause that's-
And that wouldn't happen unless an application came to do that down the road, and that'll be handled at that time.
That's correct. It's gonna be emergency only, apparently pavers under the ground, and so it can handle a truck or whatever on there.
I just really want to clarify the topography and what's by way of fact, as opposed to, general statements about flat and really steep and sloped. Our plans include all gradings, 2-foot contours. This is the gateway project here. There's a high point on the golf course back in here. This is the town's water tank. And the golf course along this line drops 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 feet until we get to this first line of the fairways. We then our roadway drops down anywhere from 20 to 30 feet below this wall line. So our roadway for fairways is actually 100 feet below the golf course's property line here. Okay, that's fact.
So that ring road is actually inclined?
This ring road does incline, correct. Starts low, comes up to a high point, and then back down again. And this portion of the property, there was a whole visual analysis done as part of it. I'm not gonna get into the visual part. There was a whole visual analysis done as part of the environmental impact statement. But I just wanted to clarify, what really is going on topographically, so the board had a clear understanding of it.
So
And
at the,
there's a heavy tree line between the top, most effective corner of that piece. What's the yardage or footage before the next house?
Well, I don't have a map that shows that, although the planning board does. I would say that the tank is in probably over 100 feet in off the end of the road. So the end of the road could be up here. Now, don't forget, there's a back property line to the residential properties, and then the roadway, okay? So, the roadway at this scale would sit just above the page up in here.
When you say
And the
roadway, you mean
houses,
Kelly
Kelly
Ridge?
Everett
This is the
Road.
property
Yeah,
line.
it's Everett up there. Yeah, 'cause I'm
so
looking at
the
map, too.
high point of your buildings are going to be at what point to Kelly Ridge Road?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. Our highest unit is in the 720 elevation, and the water tank is about 20 feet above that. And then if you go out the water tank, it's fairly level, out the water tank driveway to the end of, I believe that's
Everett.
Everett.
That's Everett,
Right.
yeah.
Tapers up from past the
Yeah.
water tank.
Right.
So you're
So-
saying it's gonna be 20 feet, Everett is 20 feet higher than the high point of that
Right.
building?
Right. Well, the high point of our roadway to that building.
Roadway.
Right.
Oh, the roadway, not the building
But-
itself?
Correct. But the representations made on this long stretch of fairways, which goes way out here, that all, the development sits way over and up in here.
Kelly
This-
Ridge?
Right.
Yes.
And this is set down to the south, and then what they're looking out over in terms of the golf course, and then the slope leading down to the wetland with the pond. Right, their development sits up here. Their development is not here. This is wooded, this is the town lot. Their development starts here and goes back down to Fair Street. And as Mike indicated, there's quite a distance through the golf course between, our fairway property line and their real.
Let me
first
simplify
real-
it. From where your proposed roadway is
I see.
to the roadway, what's your grade difference?
Yeah,
or
I
topo
just,
difference from
by
there?
measuring it along this line, there's a 100-foot I estimate 100-foot elevation change between this roadway here and the high point back up in here before you
So-
even get over that to the road.
So the point is, the original design and concept, which is approved right now, you're gonna see rooftops from their backyards or
Right.
what have you. Another story, which is what, 10 feet? You're still gonna see the same roof line, give or take, in a 100-foot topo difference,
Correct.
as opposed to more expanse or wider footprint roof line.
Right.
Right, so
And-
you're gonna
and
see
what-
taller, but shorter.
Right, and what I pointed out was, we had multifamily buildings on the uphill side of the roadway previously, which could go 40 feet up, which actually, in my opinion, would, create more of a visual impact than putting them at the lower side and keeping them the same height as the ones that were on the lower side.
Where are your three-story buildings on Gateway? Could you point?
On the
out?
approved plan or the
Yeah,
proposed plan?
On what we're
Oh,
gonna
the
decide.
The proposed one.
These two right here.
Okay, and where are the three-story on the other, on Fairway?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So they're on the downhill side of that part of the property.
And this is on the downhill side.
The elevation there, 644 according to
I
this map.
thought the other map was the proposed map.
This is the proposed plan, our amended site plan, and this is our approved site.
That's the
We
approved
call this our approved site plan, because this is fully approved, fully entitled, and this is our amended plan, which we're seeking amended site plan approval from, but is not yet approved.
Because it looks like more buildings.
What happens is, by way of the redistribution of units, there are more of the smaller, single-family buildings. And we gave you those breakdowns in the write-up.
Yeah, I have it here.
It's in 53.
But they're attached.
Correct.
Townhouses.
Mike, can I ask you a question? On the applications, it doesn't say for Gateway and for Fairway, how many of these three-story buildings are gonna be there. Is that something that? So is there anything stopping them from saying we wanna put more on because we approve it?
Yeah, this is the map that's approved. If they wanted to change and put more, they'd have to come back to you for that.
Okay, so
It
it's
doesn't
only on
blanket
the
the
map.
whole, it doesn't blanket that's why they deny a map. A specific map was stamped by the chairman, and that's what comes to you.
Great, thank you.
So what we decide on will be based on the new application from the planning board.
The current application is what you're deciding on. If they decided to change it up, if they went down, it wouldn't be a problem, but if they went up, they would have to come back.
So how many multifamily buildings are there?
We gave you the breakdowns. There's 9 in the proposed condition. There were 10 in the previous
So
condition.
you have one less multifamily.
Right, but many less units because we went from a large two-plate 18-unit building to a smaller footprint, 3-story, 13-unit per building.
So 43 less units according to your letter.
43 less units, and one less main building.
But the total is the same.
One less
Breakdowns.
building.
Right, because they have 53 additional cottages.
Correct. I
10
just want to make sure
less
everybody
town-
knows
right,
that
right.
they're not giving up units, they're,
Right, they have the same number of units,
That's
but
correct. Total.
less 3-story
That's correct.
units.
Correct.
One less
Little less
3-story.
less
unit.
multifamily units.
You could say one less 40-foot building.
One less
There's no way-
40-foot building.
That's another way to say it.
Okay. Any other points that the neighbors brought up that you want to talk about?
No,
Or answer?
no, I just want to say that, the idea that there've been no attempts to market the property, or that this is some kind of sham or shell game, I mean, anyone who has looked at real estate, or even owns a house for that matter, knows what happened with the real estate market over the past 7 or 8 years. This property, the applicant made a very clear statement in his application, has been marketed aggressively. He would love nothing more than to have, the development under construction. I'll correct Mr. Butler on just one thing, so he doesn't make the same mistake. Turnkey doesn't mean that you.
No, it's okay, I don't need to be educated.
Okay, well, I'll educate the board.
Jeff, just address the board.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just don't address each other.
What turnkey means in the construction business is you actually develop a property, you build a property, you get it set up, and you turn a key over to someone who turns a key and walks into the building. And the representations he made were to the contrary, and that's not correct. I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
Can I get one more clarification? I'm sorry. You are now building on the lower side of the street, you said?
With the
big
multifamily
buildings.
With the
buildings, correct.
multifamily. So you are then dropping down, what's the difference in the heights on the lower side of the street versus the upper side of the street?
The coming off of the street is basically at the same elevation. So there really isn't a market change whether, you have it on the one side or the other. What happens when you flip it, when you flip the building to the uphill side, is you take what is a two-story front on a downhill and move it to the uphill side, and it becomes a three-story front.
Okay.
If you
Okay,
put it
the
on
way
the
the
other
code
side, it'd be
works.
4 stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was on the other side, it would look like 4 stories.
Right,
This
that's correct.
side is
And
only
that's why
like
we
3 stories.
intentionally.
They have to
you
put it
know,
on that side to meet the code.
Right. And again, we're trying to, within the community itself, be sensitive to how that feels and what it means within this
And
proposed
the
community.
look within the neighborhood itself.
Right, right.
Okay. In fairness to the next applicant who was here with an infant, I think if anybody doesn't have anything else, we'd like to wrap this up. So, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Last application tonight is Keo.
I spoke to, can't decide.
Hold over.
We don't know if the shed's in the
Okay.
right spot.
Right.
I don't know.
I know, I was out there this afternoon, we discussed the shed. Mike ran it by town council and feels that it's better that we hold this over until that gets picked up, because,
Unless you agree to remove it, or move it to a spot where it's... No, it's gotta be moved before you can get the...
right, because,
Joe, they have a variance application in front of the board right now, and on their survey there was no shed shown. When John went out there, he noticed a shed. It appears that it's close to the property line.
You can either include it in the,
But we don't know the numbers, we don't have any. Or get a measurement off the house, do something so we can
yeah,
figure
to
out
help
where you are.
expedite it.
Because it's
You know?
been there since we bought the home. It was there when we got the variance for the first pool. Now we're just asking to move the pool to the other side of the yard. So
Let
that-
me swear you in,
Yeah,
just so
let's-
we're,
Sorry.
you are, I'm sorry,
Kathleen
state for the
Keough.
name. Okay, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay. I went out there this afternoon.
I have
I noticed there's a shed not picked up, and she rightfully said it wasn't picked up on title search or anything else. So by no fault of hers is it there, but Mike reached out to Greg and felt, what'd he say? Felt better that.
We don't grant variances when somebody has a pending necessity for another variance, or potentially, which,
the fact that the shed is there is a potential violation.
Okay.
So that needs to be remedied at the same time with this.
now my only thing is, if she agrees to move it immediately before I issue a permit on the pool to comply, is that okay, or no?
I need my old pool out of the way to put a new pool in. Can I
Right,
show
she
you
explained
a
the situation,
picture?
the pool is gonna go in a certain part of the house.
Right.
Which she's trying to segregate from her business that she runs a childcare business. She wants to keep one side for the family where the new pool's gonna go, and the other side is gonna stay more for the daycare center.
And this is where the play area is, where we want it to be.
So your question then, Mike, is whether or not you can make it contingent.
If Mrs. Keough agrees that she can move the pool, the shed,
The shed
to comply
conform.
Well,
prior to granting the building permit.
let's ask her that.
No, but I'm saying, are we gonna ask her why ask her if
I mean,
she,
you're gonna go out and re-inspect.
correct? But are
So-
you okay, would you be okay with it in that
As a
instance?
condition, knowing that if it wasn't done,
I'm
then
not
you-
gonna give you the building permit.
That's fine.
But you have to be sure that that shed can work within not needing a variance. So
Okay.
10
what your
feet from the property
setback
line.
is, which in that zone is 10 feet?
10 feet back, and then how
10 feet
far-
from the side, 10 feet from the rear. Actually, you have 2 rears, because you're on the corner, so
Well,
10
this
feet
was-
from each of the sides.
Okay, because this is off the driveway.
That's correct. So each of those 2 sides are rears, which is 10 feet, it doesn't matter. So as long as you can be 10
So if I moved
feet,
it 10 feet, but how far does it have to be from Joe,
10
behind
feet.
me?
10 feet from his property line.
So it would end up being in the driveway?
No, I don't think so. It looks, looking at the survey that we had before, it looks like it's
It's
close.
okay? I have room?
You can fit it, but are you willing to? I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay, I don't know what your plans are for your yard,
What-
that's why I'm
No,
asking.
as long as I could get the original pool out of the way, the swing set then will go in that spot. So I can put the swing set wherever I need to.
Okay.
What it is my back door backs up to the pool.
Agreed.
And I want to back up to the play area and fence the pool off So my children can use the pool and I can run my
Pool's gonna go
business
here
and nobody's in danger.
From there.
Gotcha.
She has an egress window as part of her business in the basement area that she
For
has
the
to
rec
maintain
space?
for the rec space. So she wants to segregate basically where this railroad tie is
I have
and
one
keep that the family section, and this will be, from here back, will be the daycare area. Unfortunately, the shed is like right off the back corner of the house. I drew it on my site plan when I was out there.
So you, okay, so it,
It encroaches to the back and most likely encroaches to the side yard too, so
Those are two backs, because it's a corner lot.
I don't know.
but it's
how-
the same, it doesn't change here.
Oh, that's right, because it's a small shed. Right, right.
Yeah, it wouldn't anyway.
It's
Secor
probably
doesn't
about
change.
8 feet wide
Right.
by maybe 12 foot deep, and the door is in the short side and the 8-foot side. So if you're pretty sure you can configure that,
Whichever
or
way.
get rid of it.
Well, if you condition it, I can't issue the permit until it's either fixed or gone. And I have no problem with that, I
that's-
just want to make sure that,
I'll move it as long as everyone explains to me where it needs to go.
come see me and we'll show you.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so,
home every day, so whatever, somebody wants to come, 6 to 6, I'm downstairs.
all right, so then we'll proceed with what else, explain to me what you explained to me this
Okay,
afternoon. so the
what I
board
want
has
to do is, there's an existing very small pool on the outside yard that's not in the corner. So when you come out my back door, the pool is right there. What I want to do is take that one down, but I don't want to take it down until the new one's up to use the water to fill, because there's nowhere to drain. And then put the other pool where the playground is, which is going towards the corner property. And then fencing it off from the back of the house to the back of our property line, so that it's locked, so when you come out of my home from the main house, the kids that live there can use the pool. When you come out the daycare, they can't reach it then.
So it's a safer situation.
Right.
And you're gonna put a fence between the
The,
pool
the
and the play
pool
area?
area and the play area,
All right, and bear
which
in
will
mind,
match what we have up already.
the property is fully fenced on the side of that shed, back and around the side. So it's really,
So I'm cornering it in.
yeah, kind of closed off anyway from the general public, but unfortunately, she's got 2 front yards,
Right.
so
corner
it's
lot.
falling under a tighter
So
criteria.
I'm just trying to make my kids be able to use the pool after 6, before 6 o'clock at night, because right now we can only use it after 6, and that's all you're using it, really, because I'm 24 hours, but right now I don't have children after 6 PM.
So, all right, the fact is, we'll state again, is if you can't make the shed
That's
work
fine.
and move it to within standard setbacks, then you're willing to remove it. Okay. The size of the pool, you said is gonna be
18 round.
18 round. I know we talked about if you did have some room to bring it forward, so you're not as close to the rear yard, or actually, that's a side yard. If you have the room to do that, I think we should pull that in somewhat. I mean, I wasn't out there with a tape measure, but,
From the corner of the property, the corner of the house, out to the fence to Westway,
right, bringing it towards the back of the house. Do you have room to do that?
a little bit, without leaning towards the house, because I don't want,
All right, so, well,
The
let's say,
frame of the-
so let's say, for argument's sake, 2 feet. So you would need a variance of, it would be 7 feet now. You're showing 5 foot on your site plan. Let's bring it in 2 more feet, I think,
That's moving it towards the house.
towards the house. That's a little more comfort level, in my opinion. Again, in Secor, they have smaller
the other
setbacks
house,
anyway.
the other
but-
one's 5 feet from Joe, and that's closer to his home. This is further from his home. This is
Okay.
his backyard backing to his pool.
Again, we wanna make it comfortable for you, but we have to grant the minimal possible. So I think the board might be in agreement with that. Just the general consensus here.
Do you-
So if you could do that, then let's make that, for the rear, you're looking for 5 feet. Let's make it 7 feet, provided you'd need a variance of 3 feet. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Are you okay with
Okay,
that?
can you make that
Right,
work?
I was gonna say.
If it
is-
could fit, I have to really, without it hitting the egress
The corner
area.
of the house, right.
I really don't want to touch to the house itself.
Well, short of getting out there with a tape measure, you really can't.
Well, do you want to come back next month?
Not really, because I'm holding up on all digging of moving things around, and I can't keep the daycare kids not going outside. Legally, I have to let them outdoors
You said the existing pool is 5 feet from your...
from Joe's property. That's
That's
what
the
the
guy right
original
behind you?
variance was for, 6 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah, it doesn't give us that exact
It was 5
criteria,
feet.
but... Okay.
It
Are
should
you
be
guys
in my
okay with that?
file.
Again, knowing that this is 2 fronts, fully fenced. I mean, I've got to give the benefit of the doubt, short of having someone out there and measure it. I don't know where Mike went, if he's familiar with the property, but if you guys are okay with that, we'll just keep that as such.
Because that's what exists now.
The original pool is actually 5 feet from Joe's back of his house, where this is the back of his pool.
It should be the last one. They usually put them in order.
Did you put them on?
Let's see.
I don't see the original. This is all new. This is the notice, no. Doesn't look like it's in here, John.
Keep going back, something back further.
Disclosure addendum. Negative.
Okay, I mean, where's that picture?
Here, I have another one.
Yeah, that actually looks tighter than 5 feet. Do you have another perspective?
I have more. I've made the same picture.
Yeah,
I made-
let's, just so we can make a quick determination here.
But that's the back of Joe's house. and that's
No, it's the same
just the
picture.
fence, Yeah, that's all I took. I took two.
The
Okay.
fence is on,
Actually, there may be more on my phone. Can I get my phone?
Sure.
the fence is on whose property?
It's mine.
Yeah, I mean, to me, judging from the picture and being out there today, it looks like it's even tighter than 5 feet. So if we kept to the 5 feet, you're not getting any worse than what you had. And you said this is further away from his house, directly
This is
behind you,
going further from him.
so that helps.
So his,
Yeah, that looks
That's close.
5 feet or less anyway, so.
That's tight. Yeah, okay.
that's what the
So-
original.
Okay, so if we kept it at 5 feet, it's not gonna be any worse than what the existing pool is now.
And that's fine.
And your neighbor's okay with this guy, Joe?
Joe,
So-
he doesn't seem to be, he says I make just as much noise. So, and that's the,
Okay.
the play areas where the pool
Sylvia, I'll
goes.
just add those to the file? Okay, thanks. Okay.
That's where I want to put it,
Mike, we're just,
where this is.
I was wondering if we could move the new pool more forward, but she's shown us that it's 5 feet almost now, as it is. So if we stay to that same line, it's not gonna be any worse on the neighbor
Here's the
directly
picture if
behind.
you wanna see.
Oh, fine. I know what it was. We were there on the survey.
So, all right, does anybody have anything else on the board? No.
No.
Does anybody in the public have any input on this application or questions? Okay, so just to reiterate, you're willing to either bring the shed into conformance or
Yeah.
remove it, okay? Look for a motion to close the public hearing on this.
Motion to close.
All in favor? Oh, second.
Second.
Bill second, Silvio's third. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, at this point, there will be no, we're gonna adjudicate, there'll be no input from the public on any application. So, you guys wanna take a break or go straight through?
Straight through. Straight through.
No smokers on the board. Where's my agenda?
SMSA.
All right, number 1, Freeman, we held over. Number 2, Verizon Wireless, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, granted. Excuse me, number 3, Sketchinoce and Noce.
Motion to grant?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 4, Gary Antonazio. I'll look for a motion.
Motion. Second.
Second by Silvio. All in favor?
Aye.
Granted. All right, number 5 and 6, we're gonna vote on together.
Do
Joe,
them
right?
separate, vote separately.
Vote
not
Also,
separate. She's gonna have to do 2 separate.
Yeah, that's true. Do it, yeah, it's better to
Okay,
have separate.
so number 5 is Hudson Valley Realty Corp., Gateway Summit Senior Housing. Bear in mind, we'll carry them both under the same criteria since they were presented as one application.
Understood.
Okay, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant for discussion purposes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
John, I guess I'm gonna ask you about the elevations. It's, from the way the applicant presented it, it seemed like they're not gonna see much of the top of the roof of the building.
If here's Fairway Road and the other part is,
Kelly
well,
Ridge?
no, Summit.
Summit.
Summit's the portion that had that loop road, and
Right.
this one was Fairway Senior Housing. The way I understood it, this fairway tapers up within 70, 80 feet, just within that property. And then it levels off where that water tank is, and then it goes up again to Kelly Ridge. So in my mind, like I stated, you're gonna see a roof line, whether it's another 10 feet higher or not, from the original proposal. So to me, it's not
But
making
let's
much
be
of a
clear,
difference,
it's
but
not necessarily 10 feet higher. It's 1 story more, no,
it's 1 story more.
it's 1 story more.
Story more.
The height of the building is allowed to be 40 feet,
Right.
okay?
Whether it's 1 story
Whether it's
or
1
2.
story, 2 stories, 3 stories.
Right.
The code says you're allowed 40 feet and 2 stories. They're keeping with the 40 feet, they're not going above that, and they're putting 1 more story, period. That's
So
it.
are they lowering the lower floors to accommodate, I would imagine?
No, they are squatting the roof.
Right, they're going into the roof. If you look at the drawing, you can see
So it
that
went
there's
from
eaves.
what pitch was
It's the
before?
average height of the eave, the gable, the roof.
Right. Well, it's a hip roof now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's the average height
Height
of
of
it.
that,
Anytime you have a pitch, if it's a flat roof, you go to the flat roof, if not, you go halfway up, or the average height of it.
so they probably went from like a 8 to 10 pitch now to a 4,
You got 30 feet for 3 stories. Correct?
right?
So it gives them 10 feet of roof.
Right.
Okay.
So, but that's, we have to be clear, it's not a height variance.
No, it's a floor
It's
variance.
a number of story variance, period,
That's all
Which
it
is giving more green space.
which is
You're reducing
the
the
footprint
number of buildings by 1
and the footprint overall.
overall footprint. Well, you're losing, you may be gaining footprint there, but you're adding additional townhouses and single families, so you're really not gaining the green space because you're adding more buildings in.
53.
I don't have the calculation, so I'm,
Yeah, I have it here.
no, I'm
It's just
saying,
it's
I'm
changing
saying
the
the
mix.
calculation of the impervious
How
surface, that I don't have.
Coverage. Right.
This is what we need to look at.
Let's not lose sight of the parking stalls, which, I mean, we've
That's an
just,
easy one.
yeah, that's,
We've granted that one all the time, right?
yeah. I mean, it should be changed in the code, but we'll leave that as it is.
Well, let's go with this criteria. Will an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties be created by granting of the variance?
To what's already approved, I would say no.
No.
You're gonna look at the same development, the same quantity of roof line and footprint, basically, actually less.
Okay, can any other method be used that does not require a variance but still allow for the benefit requested?
Of course.
Just
That's a
keep with
yes,
what it
because they
is.
build everything 2-story. and
Right.
that's a-
It's a wall.
Is the proposed variance substantial?
it's a third.
No. But in light of the fact that it's still the same height.
Same height.
Yeah,
It's-
I would,
it really
right,
isn't.
even, right, I'm still saying less, but, right, so 2 yes, 1 no, at least in my mind.
Will the proposed variance have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district?
Less.
Okay. Is the alleged difficulty self-created?
I think it's a victim, like most builders and developers, a victim of the recession and the changing times. That's the point I was trying to make. Maybe it didn't come out clear, but when I went to that seminar, they're changing all these buildings and designs to accommodate seniors and millennials.
And the market changed from underneath them too, they didn't have control over that.
Right.
Right.
Going more to rental units also.
True. That was, yeah, that's right. You were at the same seminar.
That was good. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, I mean, balancing.
As far as emergency services, it doesn't change anything there.
No, because it's still
Those are the
300
same
bodies
heights
no
or
matter
you're-
what. 300 units. no
Same
matter
amount of units, we don't,
what. Right.
And Jeff said they did refer it there.
what's hard?
They referred it from the planning board,
They
Department
refer
of
to
Fire
CFD.
fire
so-
department, yes.
We'll have one less building, one less
Multifamily.
multifamily building.
Yeah, you'll probably get a couple more.
Yeah, you're gonna get a few more of the townhouse and the single family.
We
But
have-
the
we
multifamily,
have
I
a
think,
fire
are
marshal
more,
now, right?
Obnoxious.
yeah.
We have a fire marshal now?
No,
Yeah.
fire inspector.
Fire inspector, okay. So he has no input on, okay. Fire
Zoning
marshal
inspector.
bill? Any other discussion?
Pretty well fell in wraps.
I guess I'll roll call it. We'll start with you, Silvio.
Motion to approve both the 40-foot, the 3-story and the 9-foot. I approve it.
Rose?
For the motion.
Phil?
For the motion.
For the motion.
Bill? For the motion. And I'm for the motion as well. So it's granted. Application number 6, Par 4 Realty Company LLC, Fairway Senior Housing. I look for a motion.
Motion to approve.
I look for a second.
Second.
No discussion? Basically, a carbon copy of the previous. Okay, motion granted.
Oh, take the vote.
Gotta vote it.
Take the
All
vote.
right. I'll start in this end in fairness. Mike? For the motion. Phil?
For the motion.
For the motion.
For the motion.
For the motion.
Sylvia? And I'm also for the motion. So the application is granted. Okay, and finally this evening, Keo, number 7.
Motion to grant with the condition that the shed must comply with the zoning code or be removed prior to issuing a building permit.
I will
Okay, do I
second.
have a second? Any discussion on this? Is everybody's okay with the setbacks as discussed as well? And, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, granted. Meeting minutes from March 24th, 2016,
I was not present, so I cannot vote.
okay. Any changes or concerns? I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Seconded by? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dominic, thank you. Everyone, have a good night.
Good night.